Hello everyone, I'm Daniel Varga and here with me Roy Dopson. He also made a PaCE1 video for the Theories of Everything with Curt Jaimungal YouTube channel. Roy, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Roy Dopson. I live in British Columbia, Canada, around the geographical center of British Columbia. And I'm just a dude. I've worked blue collar jobs my whole life. I used to lift railway ties all day, every day, um, for about 12 years. And then I became a wildland firefighter for a decade. And then I just last year retired from that because I did really well on cryptocurrency, which isn't doing very well right now. So we'll see how the rest of my life goes from here. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm just a dude, really. I haven't had any advanced training or academia at all. So just a high school graduate.
May I ask you, where did you find the contest and how did you find it? Could you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been following Curt for quite a while. I think maybe I was there before he was big, I think. And I've just been intrigued. I've always been intrigued with finding the ultimate theory, like the reason why. I guess mine's more about finding out the reason why and the big questions. What are we supposed to do, and how are we supposed to do it, and what this life is all about. And Curt is sort of touching on that stuff. So I just thought that I'd throw in a video and see what happened. Not much happened.
All right. No, it was great. Who can read in the sentences? Could you just tell me about your theory a little bit, or what it was in the video? Maybe focus in the video first, and then we can just expand this knowledge to your theory because I know you have a vast theory, a whole theory. So please do it in with the video a little bit smaller sentence or smaller form, and then expand it to your theory.
Okay, so basically, my theory is pointing out how all the other theories are wrong. Basically, the theory goes is that materialism is baked into the English language. We have no alternative. It's just there, and we can't help but speak in these terms where the thing is the fundamental reality. So I got into really the language, right? Because if we're working on an incorrect language, like an incorrect model, then anything that comes out of that model is going to necessarily be incorrect. But if we don't realize at the very where it goes wrong or where it's incorrect, at the very, very start, if it starts way down at the beginning of everything, I've got a real problem with the word thing. But then if everyone's using the same broken model that is incorrect, then everything that's produced from that model will be necessarily incorrect. But the thing is that if everyone believes that it's correct, then no one will see it, and everyone will be in, well, how I call it, a state of delusion. Like it's like we don't recognize the incorrectness of the model. So here's how it's incorrect. Basically, is that so anything, something, everything, and nothing, right? These are four words that attempt to encapsulate all of reality, right? There isn't you even the way we use these words, there isn't even anything, there can't be anything outside of this system, right? Because everything and nothing, well, that's supposed to encapsulate all. I call it all because then you don't have to use the word thing, which is the broken model in the first place, right? So the thing, right, is the root word for these four words: anything, something, everything, and nothing, right? The thing is the root word. So it's obviously setting up the model that thing is the constituent of fundamental reality, right? It's the fundamental constituent of reality. And what's a thing? Well, it's a physical object, right? So right off the get-go, we have no alternative but to everything, all of our language is based upon this model that assumes the physical realm to be fundamental reality. So I get into the definitions of like what thing is and how it's a Ponzi scheme, because it goes, well, the definition of a thing is basically an object. And then what's an object? Well, then it just goes back on and then it says that it's a thing. So basically there's a Ponzi scheme there. And then when you get to nothing, when you go down that rabbit hole, well, then it basically, when you go down that rabbit hole of what nothing is defined as, it comes down to absence, right? It's the nothing is the absence of thing. But this system is an other of, right? I call it, no, I'm sorry, other than, right? It's a dualistic system where they're in constant conflict, right? The system itself requires the annihilation of one of its constituents. So how does that work? It's just wrong. And then I point out the fact that the thing nothing model produces these paradoxes that everyone just seems to just shrug their shoulders and go, oh, well, isn't that cute? There's these paradoxes, right? But to me, a paradox is a flashing error sign that something's not correct here. Like some of these paradoxes are like, is nothing within the set of everything? You know, like how does something come from nothing? And how does non-existence exist? Like these are all flashing error signs that academia and basically the entire species just conveniently overlooks. And I point this out, and of course the company that puts this on is a math company, so they're not going to say, oh, well, this guy's right and everyone else is wrong, right? And so basically this is a really, really tough road to go down, because I'm trying to show how the whole system is incorrect. So it doesn't get a lot of airplay.
I see. All right, and thank you very much. That was really interesting, and well, I know your theory already. I'm lucky enough. But what you would like to say to the critics who say, oh, let's say I am Hungarian. I know Hungarian language. What do you say to the critics? Oh, Hungarian language does not have that. They have another words for this. What you would say about these critics?
When you get into the mathematical expression of the language, right? You have the language, the words, and then you have the mathematical expression of that. So then you get into what is zero? Well, zero is equated with the nothing, right? Which is the lack of a thing. So the way mathematics works is that you assume that there's the one, right? The one represents thing. So thing is singular, isn't it? Thing is singular. So what I'm saying is that, so what they do is they add one, they assume the pre-existence of the physical realm of a thing, right? And that's where we start. And then in order to get back to zero, they add subtraction, right? You're adding subtraction into the system to try to get it back into unity, like get it back into a proper alignment. So what I'm saying is that you have to start at the zero. The zero is not nothing. And this is how that in the video, I adapt the language, right, to make it into a triune system. This is what my whole theory is based upon, basically, is this triune system that's a superposition, right? And I start with the zero being the fundamental reality. And then one and everything else arises from the zero. So you don't start with things and then try to subtract things to get to reality. That is a completely inverted view. The entire mathematics is a completely inverted view, and language. The whole thing is an inverted view. So what I'm saying is that Materialism is baked in, it's completely wrong, and the paradoxes that that thing and nothing bring up reflect this, and then the mathematics that is supposed to align with that language is necessarily incorrect, because we're assuming the thing, which is the one, to be fundamental, right? Materialism is fundamental, and then the zero is a process, right? You get back to zero through a process of addition and then subtraction. So what I'm saying is that the zero that's prior to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's the source of that expression. It's not the lack of things. The nothing is actually the reality.
All right.
So I'm saying that even the mathematical expression of it, which is universal, right? It's the same for all languages, everyone in the world. So I'm saying that even that is incorrect. Our assumption that zero means a lack or a void is incorrect. And what I'm saying is that the zero is actually a representation of God or the Tao, and the Tao is exactly what cannot be described. So what I'm saying is that the reality is actually the superposition. It's not one or the other. It's the one or the other are other ofs, not other thans.
All right. That's really nice.
I know there's a lot to take in there, but my theory and my website go into it in quite succinct detail.
Could you just imply here your website? I will show it in the description.
Yeah, it's nonconceptuality.org. So all one word, nonconceptuality.org.
All right. Okay.
And it's brand new. I'm really excited about it. Like, James just put it together recently, and it's my life's work. Like, it really is. I've been working on this for decades, right? Like, ever since I was a kid, I've always been I've been working on this, like what it's all about, right? Like so many of us here in the toe community are, right? We're all working on this, but I really believe I found it, man. Like because when you look at that triune I call it the fundamental model of reality. When you look at it, like you can't. It's the simplicity, though. You have to keep going back to simplicity and Occam's razor, because I think we're programmed by academia to assume that complexity is leading us to higher levels of truth. But what I'm saying, and what the theory is saying, is that's completely an inverted view, and that simplicity is what's expressing fundamental truth. A fundamental truth should be more self-evident than anything else. It should almost be just a recognition, like a recognition. Sorry, my words. You should just be able to witness it and observe it, rather than going into a lot of thinking to try to get to truth.
2 comments I would like to add. Do I understand you correctly? It's we could say everything that is happening is basically in the now and in the zero, in this sense. That makes sense for you?
Yeah, so the triune system model of the fundamental model of reality even includes time, right? So time is one of these superpositions of the past and the present, right? So I have the past as the positive, which is the physical, right? So everything that we see is physical is actually our past, isn't it? Right? Most people that are watching this would understand that it takes light a certain amount of time to get here. So everything that's here in the physical realm is actually the past. And then the mind aspect, which is the negative, is the future. And then the presence, I call it presence, not just the present, because time requires consciousness in some fashion. Everyone would agree that time requires, it has a subjective interpretation to it somehow. So yeah, so the zero is the middle column with God and the Tao and all that stuff. So yeah, it's all about the present, the presence. But again, presence is not one little slice of a continuum. it's timelessness, right? Time emerges from that which is timeless, right? That it has, time is not fundamental, right? So this is also what it is expressing, is that the what is in superposition is the fundamental reality, but we just can't describe it.
All right.
So yeah, it necessarily includes time. Like one of these fundamental models must be expressed in these fundamental, in the ways in which we describe these fundamental quality of reality, I believe.
The second question I would ask you, or just maybe explain, do you think that means the humanity, let's say, tries to explain this, all of this, with the science or any language they try, and let's say 2000 years ago we had able to describe it a little bit, now we are able to describe a little bit better, and now you say you could describe it as the core mechanics logically as your system. My question is, out from this, do you think there is in the future, let's say 200 years from now, people who works in science and does not accept your view, they will also try to expand their knowledge in about this whole system that you see clearly, but they just try to expand this knowledge, but it's still just a representation of their thinking. Do I understand it, or this is looks correct for you?
What science needs to recognize is that eventually, when it comes down to it, it's all metaphor. That this is what, like, even though the very system that they're using spits out things like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and Gödel's theorem and Bell's, like, these are all flashing more signs saying this does not conclude. Thought will not conclude thought, right? You'll never reach conclusion or an answer that concludes all the questioning and all the questions via thought. This is what even thought is coming up with. But again, it's like being programmed by a cult leader that we just overlook it. Oh, well, isn't that nice? Like, I just, you can't. And what I believe is going to happen is that science is going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and they're going to create a new singularity, if you will, a big bang. And this could all be metaphor again. I don't know how literal I'm talking about when I'm going to say that they're going to create a big bang, but there's a reset coming, and science, in its blindness, its inability to recognize and interpret the own messages that it's producing in these, the uncertainty principle especially, then they're going to keep pushing it, and eventually they're going to create a new hybrid realm. And I know this sounds crazy, but there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world right now when it comes to, the digital realm and how technology, we're merging with technology and all this stuff. And my theory gets into that even deeper, but we don't have time for that. But no, I believe science is wrong. I believe science is completely incorrect. And the place at which they went wrong is included in my model. Like I pointed out very succinctly, like the 360 pages required to prove that 1 + 1 = 2. Well, there's another elephant in the room that I never heard about that until about a year ago. Like, it's wrong. If something takes 360 pages to prove it, then that's not something fundamental that's been discovered, is it? That is a convincing.
All right. That's
So yeah, I think the mathematics, I think the number system is correct. And I think the number system, and also that the positive, the zero, and the negative, that triune system, I believe that they're messages implanted by the creator to help us when we get especially lost. And right now, I believe that science has us especially lost. So this is why I'm not very popular in the TOE community. It's because I'm telling everyone that all of this is wrong.
Did you watch some other PaCE1 contest videos? And if you did, could you tell me your favorites? What did you like? What did you don't like? Could you talk about that a little bit?
I try. I try. And I listen to James's because God bless James. He's going down. I would not dabble in paradoxism because to me that's like trying to figure out infinity, and it will drive people nuts. It has, right? People working with infinity have driven them nuts, right? And so I listen to James's and I get what he's trying to do, and I wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot pole, but I agree with most of what he says. But I can't watch anyone else's because I know they're all wrong, because they're all using this, you know what I mean, right? Like if I see very clearly, like I see that lake out there where everything's gone wrong, then I just know that, well, if they're using this model, it's going to be wrong. The result is going to be incorrect. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're using a fundamentally incorrect model, then anything you produce is going to be incorrect. Now, this doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that mathematics and science doesn't work. It does work. But what I'm saying is that it works to bring to, I like using Hindu metaphor because I believe that it's all metaphor and Hinduism just works better for me. So I believe that it's all Maya. So mathematics, especially, it works as a tool of Maya's to bring humanity into a deeper state of delusion, to actually pull them away from the truth and the reality and deeper and deeper and deeper into delusion. And if someone, the proof of this to me is that this technology that mathematics has made possible to produce, right, has produced the screen and everything that is displayed on the screen. And the screen has us completely and helplessly addicted to it, doesn't it? So to me, this is proof that mathematics is actually incorrect, and it's leading us deeper into delusion, because the technology that has been produced from all of this science has us absolutely helplessly addicted to the screen. And nothing else matters to me other than that. We're completely addicted to thought and the screen. And this is our deep, deep state of delusion. And we're in trouble.
The last question I would like to ask, if you could just point out one source or one book or one YouTube video, what you would like to be heard of or just show. Maybe we can exclude your work because I guess you would like to say about your work. But let's say everyone should watch Roy YouTube videos and work. And after that, what you would like to talk about?
It's so to me, everything is spiritual in nature. Spiritual, whatever you want to say. Spirituality to me is just basically finding your true self and the true nature of reality. And in my journey, it was coming across the teaching of Ramana Maharshi that ended all of it for me. It solidified everything, and especially about how thought is not what we take it to be, right? So I would say that anyone that's really interested in finding out the true nature of themselves and how happiness and suffering is included in all this, because science doesn't even touch on happiness and suffering, which is like, well, pretty important to me. So I would say the teaching of Ramana Maharshi. It's all spiritual for me.
Thank you. Roy, could you just make another something about the PaCE1 contest? What did you like about it, or anything else as a closing word?
I don't. I hope that Curt goes back to spirituality. I know he got freaked out with his little episode there, but that is the way to go. You can't assume anything. We can't assume that anything is correct if we have a sincere and honest desire to learn what truth is and what reality is. We can't assume anything. So even if you get freaked out and things get scary, well, maybe that's because you've been believing a lie this whole time. And when that lie becomes unraveled, it gets a little scary. Because we're talking about the true nature of the self and your identity and reality, right? So it might get a little scary, but I hope that the whole community, the whole TOE community, if they're sincere about finding truth, that they give spirituality and metaphysics a deeper look.
Thank you very much. It was really wise, and I'm happy I know you, Roy. So I wish we will talk about that a little bit later, about your theory a bit more deeply.
Yeah, I really look forward to you interviewing me, especially on that theory. I really do. I look forward to it.
Thank you. That's great. And bye-bye, everyone. Everything will be in the description, and you can watch Roy YouTube videos and watch out his website. And bye-bye again.
Thank you, Daniel.
Really, thank you, Roy, for your...
No, I really appreciate you, because you're one of these people that don't just put your nose up on this and like you accept it to maybe at least possibly be true, right? So I really appreciate your open-mindedness and objectiveness in this.
Yeah, it's so just maybe we didn't go deep dive this one before, so I think you are right and correct. What I'm doing with jumping continuity theory, it's what I think science can do. If you understand this, right? So I think jumping continuity theory is the next science, and what you do is outside science. It is the whole description, and I think you are correct. How I also described, in 10,000 years ago we had just so small science. Now we have this small, but we even cannot go to the infinity in this science stuff, right? Because that you won't conclude as you described. So I believe what you are saying now, and I think that's in the unity theory. I think that shows as well. But it's all good. All right, thank you, Roy, and we will talk and